Got a question for you. What's the state of the capital markets for new construction on the debt and equity side? Key is, I want to talk about new construction here first, and then we'll follow up, talk about what can you get for existing deals. So, which way you guys want to start?
Well, Brian, you're building the deals. You probably have the most intimate.
Right, why don't we do that? I'll start with that, and then as we go to sort of the permanent side, why don't you respond there?
Okay.
It's a good question, and to be honest with you, you have to peel it back a little bit. If someone were to go out today and examine the human marketplace, they'd probably say, my gosh, I've never seen so much action, so much construction, so many cranes, so many sticks in the air, whether it's downtown, the west inner loop, west side of town, northeast, wherever the case. And that is true. So the answer is sort of twofold. Today, all of those properties were done circa probably 07, 08, and those deals will get completed. The equity is usually taken up front in most instances, and the banks will continue to fulfill their obligations, and those deals will get done. So that's the answer as to why there's so much action going on to the folks that wonder, hey, everybody keeps griping about the markets, and I've never seen so much activity or not seen such activity in the past 10, 15 years. Now, drawing a line through that sort of going forward, since, and I sort of segment the world since pre and post Lehman, or whatever the market, whether you use AIG, Lehman, August, September, last hurricane, whatever you want to use, but I always kind of use Lehman as my barometer. Since Lehman, which is I guess August, September of 08, the world has gotten markedly different in sort of the availability of debt and equity on the construction development side. But I would say, without sounding too sort of negative, probably it's gotten worse each and every week since then. Going forward, I'd say the availability of debt and equity for new product is effectively zero or close to zero, which means that all these deals that are now getting built will see completion and see fruition, give or take latter part of 09 or 010. But I think going forward, maybe to late 010 to 11, in a city that's used to 5, 10, 15,000 units a year, I think the number will go to effectively zero. I mean, maybe 1, 2, 3 one-off sort of isolated deals, but I think it'll effectively be zero.
Okay, before we switch into existing, am I the only one that sees kind of a buying opportunity here not coming up? Because what's the pipeline for a new apartment? Is it a year or 2 years?
Well, it depends. It depends if you're sort of suburban or infill, but on a deal that's sort of in town, that's got a bunch of moving parts, it's probably closer to 2 years. And a suburban deal where there's basically just land in abundance, it's probably still 12 to 18 months.
Okay, so if we shut the pipeline off for new deals somewhere in the last 6 months, then that means 2 years from that date, we're going to wake up and that pipeline will be empty and the cranes will be down and there won't be any new cranes?
Yes.
And at that point, that's where you tend to make money in real estate, is when you catch the sweet spot there of owning or buying apartments when the pipeline is shut, because that means it's going to be another 2 years before there's new supply in the market. And if the economy is picking up 2 years from now, you're going to have a situation of buildings filling up at the same time that the pipeline closes for maybe 24 months. So that's going to be your sweet spot buying opportunity in my mind. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I had dinner with some guys last night. We talked about this sort of indirectly, but it's that when do you dive back in? When does the knife stop falling? And I think that we see an opportunity now on the core side, which is kind of the Class A product that Brian's talking about, because there's so few dollars, there's so few people chasing those assets, and in 2 years to make that money, hit that sweet spot, you got to own the deal then now to be able to do it. And I'm going to just offer to see if you want to come on every presentation we have in the future, because you're exactly right in my opinion.
Well, that's encouraging. At least I'm 1 for 10 so far. But as the morning goes on, and don't mind, I got a thick skin and no self-esteem, so you can disagree with me as much as you like. What about existing? Okay, the bottom line is I don't think there's any money for any new real estate deal in America right now, pretty much, from bank lending.
Development.
For new, yeah. Now let's switch gears and talk about existing stuff on the ground. Where are we at there?
And David, I want to start at the top level, and I want you to talk specifically, because I do think it's one thing that I've kind of learned in my travels over the past couple of months, talking to folks all over the country, and sort of every line of work, and every sort of the commercial real estate food groups, is that, and let me preface by saying that I'm biased and this is self-serving because I'm in the apartment space, but I will say this, and I think David will probably back this up. Right now, because of the the prevalence of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we have a level of liquidity that doesn't exactly exist in any other form of real estate, and maybe not any other space. So basically, as we're talking to different folks and we're showing what we believe returns on cost to be or what we believe cap rate should be, as they kind of take a step back at sort of the academic or the 2,000-foot level, and they say, I don't get it, there's no leverage, the math is what it is, and the returns need to be closer to a 10. You know, that's where retail needs to be, or office, or whatever the case may be, because investors are going to require X. Well, because of the availability of Fannie and Freddie, continue to sort of play in our space, and from everything that I understand, everything I can see, we'll continue to do so. I believe that our business is in a little better shape because you can ultimately see some visibility, see some sort of exit opportunities versus sort of the lack of transparency and vision in pretty much every other space, which I think you alluded on earlier.
Yeah, the issue that we see is not necessarily lack of capital, it's the basis that where we stand today. If you bought a deal or built a deal a few years ago, you had to underwrite with using certain assumptions just to get the deal done. That you had an exit cap rate, for example, that does not exist today because of the underwriting standards with Freddie and Fannie or any of the equity groups out there. So you have someone that has a distressed deal that they underwrote and they lend money on at 28 a unit. Let's just say it's 30,000 units for easy math on a 300 unit project. And today it's worth 15 because it's 50% occupied, it's in a C location. You don't have the good demographics there. There's the demand is such that your basis is far below, it's far above what the current demand is in today's market. And then you can apply that into these same core deals, and that's the issue. There's plenty of money out there. The message that we're hearing is there are several people that want to buy, but the basis of the existing owners that need to sell with debt coming due, with a construction loan coming due, with other issues that we're all seeing in various aspects of real estate is not the demand, it's the basis. And so that's really the issue. So the answer to capital on our side is there's tons of capital. Everyone we talk to in all of our meetings, there are tons of sellers and there are tons of buyers. The problem is the basis at which the sellers need to sell and the basis at which the buyers want to buy does not match up, and we all know that. Now the real issue is it's not even the sellers that are stubborn I think the misconception is, it's the debt. You can't sell a deal if you're into it for 120 and your loan is 100 and it's worth 80. You can't sell it for 80 until the bank, to use your analogy of the government setting the rules, you got to know the playing field. So the bank's got to write that one down. There's got to be a major shift in the economics of the deal to make it work. And so I guess the capital question, be encouraged. There's tons of money out there. It's going to loosen up, but we just got to have a adjustment.
So there's lots of buyers out there. And I think there are too, because if you're afraid of inflation and you're buying gold for $930 an ounce, you're also thinking about buying real estate for that exact same motivation. But what you're seeing is that somebody's got to come down on price. There's a price,
right,
and that prices fall.
The news is not bad if you're a developer or an owner that bought 2 years ago, because there's a herd mentality that exists out there where these institutions are not doing anything right now. So there's no demand, and so it's very difficult for them to. For cap rates to come down because no one's buying. So we've seen this in cycles, and a few years ago, all we did was sell 4 brand new deals, and now we're selling, B and C deals, and there's a few A deals that'll happen. But if you're an A owner or a developer, our message is not, hey, you're in trouble, your basis is way too high. It's just you've got to wait for that institutional money to come back into the market, because these deals, as Brian knows, they're not 20 million bucks. You can't go get a private guy to get a 70% loan or raise a little equity. And put the deal together. They're $50 and $60 million, where it takes a larger institution to get off his hands, so to speak, and get moving.
Okay, well let's drill down a little bit. Which submarkets in the Houston metro area are performing better or worse than others?